Hello and welcome to another episode of A Tonic for Lunacy. Today I have a very special guest that does not exist here. Actually, that was I guess a little bit of a Freudian slip because potentially she doesn't exist at all. Okay, before I get into that, I am going to be doing a little review of Britney Spears' Human Design Shadow Chart today. So, those of you that know me know that I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, just a little bit. So there are a ton of different conspiracy theories around Britney Spears and whether she exists, whether she has died or has been cloned. Yes, this is what I do on TikTok in my free time. I actually have a friend that we will send TikToks back and forth about Britney. And there is some pretty good evidence that shows that her face is very different from what it used to be. Now, I know, I'm crazy and we don't clone people and that's not a thing. And Biden's not a clone, whatever. Point is, it could potentially be true, but also her family has said that she is actually an addict. So we're gonna look at that a little bit in terms of her chart and just play around. Obviously, I don't know Britney. I know her from what I know about her, right? From loving her as a teenager and following all the conspiracy theories and all of the rumors and her court case and all of the things. But obviously, I don't know her. So keep an open mind. We're just going to play around with some of the information based on what I know, based on some of the research I've done. If you have things to add, please add them because that just makes it more fun. So drop a comment if you are watching this on YouTube, or feel free to DM me if you're listening on the podcast. If you are on the podcast, I do recommend jumping on YouTube because I'm going to show her chart. So let me share my screen real quick and I'm going to download her shadow chart. Those of you that don't know, how do you not know this yet? But I have a free human design shadow chart that you can download on my website. I will put a link in the show notes or in the YouTube description. So the shadow chart itself is free. So what I'm going to do here, I've already entered all of her information. I'm going to view her chart. Now, we can download this. So it's a little bit easier to read. Okay. What we got here is Britney Spears, who is a 5-1 manifesting generator. Okay. The first thing that I look at when I look at somebody's shadow chart or even their regular human design body graph is I want to know what their definition is. I want to know if they are a single definition, if they're split, triple split, quad split, etc., or no definition. So Britney is a single definition. So, what that tells me in terms of her shadows and conditionings is that we are most likely to find them in her undefined centers because she doesn't have any bridges. If you're a split definition, it's going to be in your bridges. So, we've got the undefined crown, we've got the undefined G, the undefined ego, the undefined solar plexus, and the undefined root. Now, my mind immediately goes to nuances. So some things that I teach in the human design shadow training. We have a defined sacral and a defined spleen. We have the gate 50, but no 27. What this tells me is that there's some mommy wounds in here. There may be some potential for not feeling nurtured or taken care of. And now we also have a defined 6, but no 59, which tells me there are some potential daddy issues here as well. That's just what my eyes go to. But let's go back to the undefined centers. So we got the crown that is about inspiration, but it's going to be a lot about doubt too for her. We have the undefined G center where it's so important that this person is around the correct people because she's going to be amplifying their energy. Now, we did hear a lot about her husband, Sam, who supposedly does not have her best interest. He's just using her for her fame, and actually has a whole other girlfriend. Is that true? I don't know. But is he a good influence for her? we have the undefined ego that's going to try to prove herself. It's going to try to get recognition. It is in the not self. It's going to want to give its shirt off its back just to feel included, just to feel loved, just to feel recognized, cared for. We have the undefined solar plexus that is, God, there's so much here with the undefined solar plexus because it can be very manipulative. It's a people pleaser. It feels other people's emotions by 200%. It amplifies it. So I'm going to feel your emotions at 200% that you feel them at. I don't always know what they mean. I don't always know what they are. So what happens when people have an undefined solar plexus and they're in the not self, they're either going to lie, pretend to be someone else, pretend they're going to have a whole other secret life because they don't want to deal with other people's emotions when they tell the truth, but also they're going to want to self-soothe. Now, self-soothing can be created from addictions, right? So now we have the undefined root. Now I'm going to say something, and I know I'm going to regret this because I'm going to get questions that I cannot answer. But I'm just going to tell you, according to Ra's source materials, and yes, I have this somewhere, and I can tell you if you want it. I even have it in a Google Doc that I just shared with the human design shadow training people. Ra said that if you have the 19 or the 49 defined with an undefined solar plexus, it is a potential marker for autism. That's all I'm going to say about it because that is what Ra said. I have no further evidence of that. I'm just giving you the information. Do what you want with it. Great. Got that out of the way. I like when I look at something and I'm like, oh my God, I know the nuance of this. How can I not give it to someone? So I'm just going to preface it by saying that I did not create this information. This is strictly from Ra. I don't have any more than that. Do what you want with it. I'm just the messenger. Now we have the undefined root. So the undefined root is going to amplify the pressure and stress from other people. It doesn't have a fixed way of processing stress and pressure. Excuse me. So it can create a lot of anxiety, especially if someone doesn't know how to regulate their nervous system, is trying to feel feelings that are not theirs from the undefined solar plexus, is doing only to prove themselves, right? We're looking at that undefined ego center. So when we have the undefined root and the undefined crown, what Ross said was that this is a marker for ADHD. Now, this is where I combine my worlds, right? Doing the work that I do with trauma and shadow work. What I know from Dr. Gabor Mate is that ADHD, many times, not all times, okay, everybody get your panties out of a knot, many times is simply a trauma response. And I think I spoke about this in another episode as well. But what Dr. Gabor Mate said in terms of ADHD being a trauma response is that these are children who are unable to process their environment because of trauma, right? Because of damage to their system. They are in stimulation overload and they can no longer process their environment. Therefore, they completely disassociate or have that flight trauma response where it's just that restless energy and they're running from here and there and here and there. And that can also be disassociating, right? They're disassociating from their current reality because they cannot process the stimuli. They cannot process the emotions. There is a threat. There is a threat to their body, whether that's in their environment, right? Whether their nervous system is sensing a threat in the environment, or they are simply living in survival mode from previous traumas and experiences. So we can see that this might be an issue for Britney as well. Again, we don't know her to confirm this unless you do, in which case, please send her to me. I'd love to talk to her about this. So the potential to disassociate and numb out, how do we do that? A lot of times it is with addictions. Now, we have, if I'm looking at trauma responses specifically, we've got the the flight that I just talked about with the undefined root and the undefined crown. We have people pleasing, deep people pleasing of the undefined ego, also the undefined solar plexus, and also the undefined G. I don't know who, I don't have a fixed identity, a fixed direction. Therefore, I'm like a chameleon and I'm just going to take on the energy of other people. And that is also people pleasing, because then we know what to expect. Then we can control our environment. And that's a survival mechanism. So the point of outlining all of this for you is, if Brittany was standing in front of me, then I would tell her, these are behaviors and patterns that you have been likely identifying with, meaning she thinks this is just who she is. This is just what I do. This is just who I am. Now, let's see what else is in here. So we have a not self theme of frustration. If you're a manifesting generator or generator, you always want to look at what is frustrating in my life. It's as simple as that. What is currently frustrating me? And how am I continuing to choose things that are out of alignment for me and continuing to create more and more frustration? Now, we can look at her strategy, which is to respond, and her sacral response. So let's look at her sacral response real quick. Her sacral response is the 3457. This is what her specific sacral responds to. Now, I do give you some information about channels here in this free report. So if you scroll down to your channels, the ones that make up your your authority, this will give you so much information. So her authority, the way that she makes decisions that are in alignment for her, is going to be through the 5734. This is the archetype. It's a sacral spleen connection, integration channel, which means it's highly individual. It's alert and attuned to the body and constantly on guard for threats. What this tells me is that her body, when she is making incorrect decisions, she is likely in survival mode, and her body is highly attuned to threats, but too much, right? It's dysregulated. When she is grounded and connected to her body, she can make decisions that are in alignment. She is physically fit, vitally alive, acoustically alert when she is grounded and connected to her body. She is finely attuned to her individual survival, not the needs of others. What this tells me is that if she is highly attuned, if she is people pleasing, if she is in this gate 19, if she is in the not self of the 5-1, if she is trying to fix others, if she's trying to get recognition through her undefined ego, people pleasing through her undefined solar plexus, if she's doing all of these things, she is going to be in the not self energy of her authority. And because her authority is connected to the spleen, it is her immune system. It's physical survival and health for her. Really, really important for her to be finely attuned to her own needs, to be making decisions based on her own needs, not the needs of other people or the expectations of other people, right? So we're kind of weaving in all these different elements here, but being a line 5 from her profile, her conscious line 5, she is naturally projected onto, which means people will project their expectations onto her and expect her to fix it, expect her to be that, expect her to fix their problems, to find solutions, whether it's in alignment for her or not. Now, if she doesn't recognize this and she's living in survival mode and her inner child is deeply wounded, then she's going to take on all of these expectations, try to be all the things for all these people, trying to meet their expectations, prove herself, her worth in order to survive. But it's her dysregulated nervous system, her deeply conditioned mind thinks that is what she needs for survival. But her true self, her most aligned, most powerful, most healthy, highest self says no. Tune them out. You need to be highly attuned to your own survival needs, to what is correct for just you, just you. And it might not look the way that other people want it to look. But you can see how if we're disassociating and we're numbing out, and we have all of these layers because the inner child is so deeply wounded, and we're not giving her the attention that she needs, the healing that she needs, how it can be detrimental to Brittany's health to focus on these survival mechanisms that she probably knows them as who they are, rather than listening to her authority. So her authority, as I just mentioned, right? Like as that entire thing we just talked about, is conditioned. So what a lot of people don't think about is that their definition can be conditioned. Yes, your definition can be conditioned. It is potentially hard for Britney to follow her authority because she is deep in the not self of her undefined centers. And that is manifesting through trauma responses, through sabotaging behaviors, through conditioned behaviors and beliefs. Now let's continue with the 5734. This is known as the hard worker, someone that works hard. Now she also has the 1648, which can also be an incredibly hard worker. And she also has the Pluto, her Pluto in 32. Same, right? This can also be the marker for someone who works hard. So we know that she works hard, but is she working hard at the correct things? Or is she working hard to, how do I want to say this? To maintain the homeostasis of survival mode in her body. I have to work hard to be my not self. It's conditioned, it's become a pattern. So it might not be as hard as shifting into my true self now, but it is still going to be draining on my energy because it is not who I am. So what is she working hard at? Well-being mindset can be highly affected when following others' needs or directions for who or how to be. Oh, look, I even have it in here. This is Britney Spears' authority channel. 57 is always going to be prone to melancholy. So we have anywhere in the chart where you have individual integration energy, you're going to be predisposed to depression, to melancholy, to sadness, to that pulse that is on and then it's off. I did a whole podcast episode on that. So you can find that in the podcast. But okay, let's look at her profile. She's a 5-1. You progress in this life by establishing your leadership through your practical and effective solutions in times of crisis, revolution, or transition. Solutions based on long and thorough research, which can take years, and an insatiable search for facts to support the results. The potential conditioning of a line 5 uses its energy to fix everyone else's problems in an effort to be liked, seduces and manipulates through influence to get its way. Unhealthy paranoia, fear of unmet expectations, ding, 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 fear of rejection, ridicule. I'm going to add abandonment. The potential conditioning of a line 1, fear of failure, self-doubt, fear of being seen, early childhood trauma of a shaken foundation or safety. This tells us a lot. Now, remember, I say this all the time, we don't live in a vacuum. So when we look at our human design chart, we want to be able to synthesize the chart. And this is what I teach people how to do in the human design shadow training, where I will teach you how to become a human design shadow analyst. We're actually currently enrolling for September class. It is a 6-month program, 3 months of shadow training, deep shadow training that will blow your fucking mind. And then another 3 months of mastermind, Q&As, business. How do I incorporate this work into the work I already do? So I'll drop a link to that in the show notes. But when we're looking at her 5-1, we know that there is a potential for self-doubt. That's the undefined crown, right? And in the undefined crown, we have 64 and 63. These are part of her incarnation cross. Now, when her incarnation cross is in an undefined center, that means she's going to have inconsistent energy, and it's going to feel like it is shaky. right? It's going to feel like shaken ground. And I'll talk about her incarnation cross in a minute. But when we look at the 5-1, we're looking at projections. This is the witch that's burned at the stake. She's damned if she does, she's damned if she doesn't, right? You're fucked either way. So you really have to develop a very strong sense of who you are. Now, of course, that's going to be a little bit more difficult with an undefined G center, with an undefined ego, with an undefined solar plexus, because she's amplifying the energy of other people in these centers. So she might not have a very clear understanding of who she is, especially if she has had that shaky foundation as a child. Right? So we have the 64, we have the 63. Let's look at our incarnation cross. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say here about her, about the 5-1 and self-doubt from the undefined crown, that's going to be one of the most detrimental things for her, because I can see self-doubt popping up in a lot of different ways through the conditioning of her channels, like the 1648, the 1156, the 5734, and also impacting her through her undefined centers. If I doubt who I am and myself and my achievements or my strengths, my abilities, my uniqueness, I'm going to rely on the energy of other people. I'm going to rely on other people's expectations. I'm going to follow their path for me. Right? So self-doubt is going to be one of the most detrimental things for Britney. Now, if she was sitting in front of me, I'd be talking deeply with her about self-doubt and how do we create a stronger sense of self. We would be doing a lot of reparenting work, and that's what this is. That's what shadow work is, essentially reparenting the wounded inner child so that we can release some of those subconscious beliefs that we should doubt ourselves, that we're not good enough, that we shouldn't trust ourselves. One of the shadow aspects of gate 57, which is, remember, in her authority, but also in her conscious Saturn, conscious Saturn, conscious Mercury, or is that Venus? Unconscious Venus, sorry. And conscious Saturn. So these are going to be some of her deep sabotage patterns that will affect her physically. Ross said, Saturn affects us in our bodies physically. So one of the shadow aspects of 57 is not trusting yourself, not trusting your intuition, not trusting your energy. So we've got deep issues of self-trust and self-doubt. And my feeling on all of this and synthesizing this chart with you is that she has some, let's see, what did I write here? The root, the ego, soul plex G, being a 5-1, we have some deep fear of failure to meet other people's expectations, failure to meet your potential, abandonment and rejection issues, and a fear of being alone. Because who am I when I am alone? Now think about why somebody, and this happens a lot of time with undefined spleen, but even with the undefined solar plexus, if somebody is emotionally defined, then I have that, how do I explain it? If I have an undefined solar plexus. So when I'm just going out there in the world, I don't know what I'm going to feel emotionally because I amplify other people's emotions. Now, if I'm with the same person over and over and over again, then I have that emotional balance, if you will. I sort of know what to expect. And people that have undefined emotional solar plexuses and the undefined spleen are often very, very, very emotionally attuned, even if they don't realize it subconsciously. It's like this subconscious intuition for other people's emotions. So when that is gone, I might feel completely alone, betrayed, and rejected, abandoned, because that emotional energy that I got so used to feeling is now gone. And now I am left with this undefined solar plexus, with this empty space of emotion. So if she is around people who are manipulative or only want to use her for her wealth, for her stardom, whatever you want to call it, and they're emotionally defined, as soon as they leave, she's going to feel abandoned, rejected. And then she's going to numb out. And she might, go for the drugs, the drinking, the Netflix, whatever it is, especially if she doesn't know how to process this information. Okay, what else? I wanted to look at the incarnation cross. She is the left angle cross of identification, 916, 64, 63. Remember, the 64, 63 is in an undefined center. Therefore, she has inconsistent access to this energy. You are here to identify with the details of an experiment that is stable. So you will only get involved in an experiment project plan where there are enough resources from the beginning, and you don't have to worry, because only when you feel confident and have no doubts, your stability stands out. What did we learn about her doubt, right? She has a lot of self-doubt in the not self. An inability to focus on the details, right? So we have 9, her gate 9, which is her sun, her conscious sun, and 16, which is her conscious earth. 16 is skill, and 9 is focus on the details, right? And this is her format energy. So this is going to affect her entire chart. If she's in the not self of this gate 9 energy, she's going to be obsessing over what she can or cannot do, her skills or the lack thereof, thinking she needs more, thinking she needs to be different, thinking everything is my fault. I am not good enough. Lots and lots of self-doubt, lots and lots of self-trust issues. Okay, all of this is in the free chart. Okay, and there's more, right? Like I didn't go through everything, obviously, but all of this is in the free chart. Now, if you wanted to, which I highly recommend, folks, you can also download if you scroll down here, right, this is on my website where you can download your chart. If you scroll down, you'll see this shadow report that's $97. Now, when you purchase this shadow report, this is what you get. Oh, this is still downloading here. Let me stop this. So it'll give you this report, and it is, this one's 39 pages. Okay, so look what we got here. Let me show you real quick. We got a table of contents. So the introduction, we're going to talk about what is human design, what is shadow work, what is conditioning, what is deconditioning, what is human design shadow, who am I, how to use this report efficiently because I'm an MG, your HD shadow chart, your definition, your undefined centers, your profile line, your authority, your conscious moon, and then most importantly, the deconditioning process based on your chart. So I'm going to show you what to look for in your report and in your chart and how to use that to decondition. So let's skip some of this intro stuff. This is the chart that I just showed you, Brittany's chart. Now the definition, I'm going to talk about her being a single definition and what that means. And then I'm going to go through her undefined centers and I'm going to give her information on how to realign if she's in the not self of the undefined crown. So some journaling prompts and questions for her to work through. Then we're going to look at, let me see here, her profile lines, the 5-1, deeply, right? The line 1, the line 5, what it all means. And then we're going to look at her authority. What does it mean to be a sacral authority? And how might that affect her conditioning? How might her conditioning affect her sacral authority? So you can see we go deeply, deep into all of this. And then most importantly, I'm going to talk about the conscious moon. And this is what I wanted to look at. Her conscious moon is in gate 19. Gate 19 creates awareness. Okay, so why do we look at the conscious moon? The conscious moon, a lot of times, will show us our trauma responses. Okay, so I have an upgrade coming here where it's going to explain your trauma responses in much more detail. There's like 3 more pages to this. So that will be live by the time you see this video. But the conscious moon is going to show us what drives our behaviors. And a lot of times that comes from not self, that comes from trauma. So gate 19 is wanting, it's in the root. Gate 19 creates awareness for others around what they need in order to survive, thrive, achieve their goals, and live to their potential. You are sensitive to your own needs and those of the tribe, instinctively knowing what others may need. In the not self, the trauma shadow of this gate is being the martyr, savior, and in victim energy. You can become extremely sensitive to what others need and ignore your own needs. This can cause a lot of resentment, anger, and sadness, and a stickiness around self-worth. This is the child that took on the responsibilities that her parents should have. She proves she is worthy by doing and fixing for everyone. In the not self, we're often motivated by a need to feel needed and wanted. What do we know about Britney? We know that her entire family has benefited from her stardom, from her success, from her money. That they constantly push her in order to create more money for themselves. And she was probably given the impression that she needed to do this for the family. Do this for us. We're relying on you. We need you. Help us. Right. And all of this, like everything we just talked about, like there are some very, very clear themes. Like you cannot tell me, even if you are a human design, someone that doesn't trust it, that doesn't believe it, you cannot tell me that you don't see the clear themes here of how much she loves others, how much she wants to help others, and takes on those responsibilities for others. Now, part of that is inherently inherently selfish, right? Because it's survival. If I please them, then I will survive. I will receive the love, the safety, the security, all of our innate needs. So part of it is selfish, right? Kind of selfish, quote unquote, right? But it is not self behavior. So what I would do with Britney is that I would help her bridge the gap between this not self behavior, where she might be operating from right now, and her true self, which is what every other human design chart will show you, right? My true self, this is who I'm meant to be. And like, that is fantastic. I love to see my potential, but how do I get there? That's why we do the deconditioning work, so that we can focus, we can see, we can acknowledge, we can recognize our hidden trouble spots, right? Our hidden subconscious beliefs, our hidden trauma responses that we've been identifying with as who we are. What do you mean these behaviors are not who I am and they're only sabotaging my efforts? Never have I ever thought of it that way. That is the work to bridge the gap between our shadow self, where we might be right now, creating chaos, and our highest potential, where we are living the life of our dreams and beyond, right? We're bridging that gap through the deconditioning work. Now, this is the deconditioning process, and I'm going to teach you how to do it, right? So this is all through here. So this is what you will see when you download your report. Like I said, there's an upgrade coming. There is going to continuously be upgrades to this as I add more and more gates. Like we're going to be working on the conscious earth in terms of our balance and safety. We have a lot of different things that we're working on. It just takes some time, but as long as you purchase it, you will receive the upgrade for free. Right now, this is priced at $97. That will likely go up as we add more and more information to this report. Okay. That is my little shadow synthesis around Britney Spears. Now, if you want to learn more on how to do this work for yourself, for your clients, incorporate it into your business, the Human Design Shadow Training is for you. I will drop links and information. If you want to learn this for yourself, your own personal healing on a, kind of doing it by yourself, maybe in a little slower pace. I do have Shadow Stripper School, which is monthly masterclasses and videos on unpatterning, rewiring, unraveling your not self so that you can get closer to who you're meant to be. I will drop links to everything. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.